Good afternoon. Bringing you, well, we're in Townsville, lovely Townsville anyway. I've had a meeting up here and so many issues I've got to tell you. I've got a whole list here I'm actually going to be talking to you about this afternoon. But at the moment I'm with Terrell. Terrell's a local here, and the most important issue that's been raised with me on my trip up here is about crime, carjacking, about break-ins. It's a huge issue, and I've got to say, just about every person that I've actually spoken to today has either had their car hijacked or they've had their house broken into. So, you know, I'm going to let you listen to what Terrell has to say, and I think it's an important message that we need to get out to the state members of parliament, other representatives, and what needs to be done. Terrell, just, you know, explain to everyone about yourself and what you're doing here. And
well, for 5 years now I've been running a Facebook page where we've been advocating to get better results for victims of crime and get something done about the situation that has been happening here. We have got so many wonderful members in the community that are always out there trying to help each other, and it's just wrong that we're not getting enough backing from the government to do something about the problem. Do
you think the police have their hands tied? They can't do anything?
Yes, I agree, 100%. It's so demoralising for them.
All right, now let's go back. Why is it that way? Having a conversation with you and talking to other people, it was in place to deal with the crime, the hijacking. So what they've done is now police can't pursue people in stolen cars, correct?
That's correct.
Right. So my understanding and having spoken to the police union is they would like to be able to pursue at their discretion.
I agree 100%. We have police officers that are trained in police pursuits. They are trained in dangerous driving. They should be able to make a judgment call as to say whether or not it is safe or not to pursue that vehicle.
And what you were actually telling me also was that the kids in the car, and what were you saying the other day?
Yeah.
A kid as young as what, 8 or 10?
Yeah, we've had kids as young as 8 and 10 driving these stolen vehicles.
At what, 120?
Yeah. Down our
right.
main roads, in front of schools, and constantly.
They're actually coming up beside a police car, tapping the police car and then taking off because they know the police car can't pursue them.
Exactly.
And this is the problem that's actually happening.
We've even heard of them mooning police officers out the windows.
Oh. And then on top of that, you said they go into the police yard, they do a UE, they do a spin.
I've heard twice now of them doing this.
And then they go out and they are basically purposely antagonising the police to actually pursue them, and they know the police can't.
Exactly. They know the police can't touch them. They know they've got a free rein. Doesn't matter what they do, because our legislation says detention at its last resort, and they know they can just walk.
Snubbing the law. And get this one. You had 3 youth turn up to the court and they were going in there for sentencing because they did commit a crime. They turned up in a stolen car.
Yeah.
So this is what is happening.
That's how they feel about our
all the youths in our detention centres, we're looking at about $470,000 per youth in our detention centres, and that's what's costing us, the taxpayers. So carjacking, increased crime, but your Facebook page actually, I think it really helps people and victims because you are actually keeping up to date and informing people, or they actually are informing. And what's good about it is if a car's been stolen, it's put out there and the general public are keeping an eye out for it and helping the police in a lot of ways. And I think the police appreciate.
From what I've heard of the police on the ground, and even a few in the hierarchy, they do actually appreciate it because there's only so many of them. There's thousands of our eyes out there on the streets every day. If we know what is missing, we can keep an eye out for it.
But there's another thing too. The whole instance about this carjacking and break-in crime and everything is not just happening here in Townsville. I've heard it's actually happening in Mackay, it's happening at Innisfail, Cairns,
everywhere.
Yeah, so it's actually spreading. So the whole attitude towards you can't touch us, we can do whatever we want to do, and that is actually coming through to the youth, and I just don't believe it's right. So
can I just say, I actually believe that this is becoming an Australia-wide problem. We're hearing about the lady in Tasmania that was killed by a stolen vehicle for youth driving it. We're hearing about the youth riots in Melbourne, Darwin, everywhere. We're hearing about these issues.
Uncontrollable, and It comes down to the politicians.
It
They
does.
have not got the guts to actually say, go out there and do it. And what annoys me is I think they're listening to the minorities and these ones that are actually saying, oh look, you can't touch them, the poor little darlings. They've had, you know, a tough upbringing, mum and dad split up, or they haven't been potty trained properly for whatever reason.
Yep.
And so, you know, we're making excuses for them. So we, the innocent people, have to live in a society that we don't feel safe in anymore. So unless something is done and we toughen up on this and we put pressure on our politicians, it's only going to get worse. And I fear for the future generations as well.
Yeah.
So you're doing a fantastic
Thank
job.
you.
Congratulations. I know it's not easy for you. So yeah, what's the name of the site?
Townsville Crime Alerts and Discussions. I would like to say one thing though. They may be able to steal from us, but the one thing they can't steal from us, and that is the fantastic community we have here that pulls together and helps each other when we need it.
No, good on you. And I've got to tell you another thing too. I heard a story the other day. A woman stopped, she saw the car, it had the wheel spiked. Anyway, she stopped and they jumped out of that car, came over to her car, bashed her window in, smashed it in, and then they dragged her out of the car. She's got bruises down, and I'm talking a woman, you know, up around her 60s, and dragged her out of the car. Terrifying for her, but it's basically happening to women as well. And they see them as a target, an easy target, defenceless.
Well, we were starting to think if we locked our doors when we got in our cars, we'd be safe. But now that we're hearing about them smashing the windows to get in, what do?
Yeah.
We can't cut bars on our car windows.
Untouchable.
We shouldn't have to.
And the drugs?
The drugs,
it's a
the
big thing
chroming
that's
is
driving.
just out of control.
Yeah.
How can it be legal?
And big problem with this is the old ones are getting the young kids to actually commit these crimes and stealing the cars because they know they can't be touched by the law. And that's the big problem with it. And we've got to actually act on this and start reining in the problems that we have.
We do.
Well, thank you.
Thank
It's
you
been
for
wonderful,
taking the
Terrell.
time.
Appreciate that.
I
So
appreciate
anyway,
you taking the time.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to talk about some other issues and thanks, Terrell. You know, it's been a big week for me, and especially, I think, medicinal cannabis. And when I heard about the house being broken into or raided by the police and the medicinal cannabis was taken, and I know it's illegal, but 200 people throughout the country were being, you know, given this medicinal cannabis to help, you know, children, epilepsy fits and that for other reasons, and now it's been taken. And I have actually asked the Prime Minister if he would actually step in and call for an amnesty, and to each and every one of you who've contacted his office, thank you. I don't know what more I can actually do about this, and we have pushed for this, and just keep getting the message out and talk about it and just try and get through to your politicians, if not the Prime Minister's office, that if we can actually do more for you with regards to this, because I feel for those kids. Because this is D-Day for one of these kids that I know of, because they've run out of medication today. The father is actually distraught over the whole lot, so his child will end up in hospital and will end up going on to morphine, probably dosed up too much on it. So I hate to speculate what may happen if they don't get the medicinal cannabis. So it is something, and I'm still out there fighting for this reason. Another reason for being up here in Townsville, I had a meeting with the Mayor Jenny Hill and her CEO, Adele Young. Well, what a couple of powerful women they are. I was very impressed. You know, strong leaders of the community, care about the community, working hard, and to work with them, it's going to be great. We've spoke about water. Now, this is very important. Townsville is actually, the dam is down to about 15%. Now, the big issue up here is water. We can't make it rain, so we do need water resources, so Hell's Gate must go ahead. They're talking about the Burdekin dam, the Ross dam, to actually increase the size of the walls there, but also water. Get this, it costs about $2,000 a day for water, but now they have to pump it because it's down so low. And to pump that water costs $30,000 a day in electricity costs and charges to get the water. So that's what the council has to pay, $30,000 a day to pump that water to the people here. Now, this is where, you know, common sense doesn't prevail here, because here we have the Greens, they're out there saying shut down any coal-fired power stations and we should be using renewables. Well, what would it cost if we had to rely on renewables? We've got to, think about this seriously. They need their own power here in North Queensland because they don't have the what can I say? We actually can negotiate with different power companies in southeast Queensland. Up here, they can't. There's only one company, and that's what they have to pay. So there's no, consumer negotiations and who's going to give them the best price. So really, to service the needs, and especially the sugar industry, because their power costs are rising, it's driving them off the land. They can't afford it. The actual cost to the consumer up here is a lot higher than those people living in southeast Queensland. We've got to look seriously at a coal power fired station up here. We have the coal, we have the cleanest coal in the country, and we've got to be smart about it because renewables will not do it, and the cost of renewables, no one will be able to afford it. Industries, manufacturing, cost of living, people cannot afford it. Another thing that I've actually have come up here and I've spoken to people about is the Aboriginal issue. Now, I had some Aboriginals pull me up in the street. They said, "Hi Pauline, how are you? Have you got a meeting going up here?" And I said, "No, I haven't." And they said, "Have you actually spoken to the Indigenous?" And I said, "Yes, I have." I've had a talk with them about raising the issue of building a centre that the kids go into it basically to help them get back to the grassroots, to have a person that they can look up to who will sort of put them back in touch with themselves and retrain them instead of this attitude that we can do whatever we want to do and you can't touch us. And I think we've lost contact with the Indigenous community and these kids coming through. And I think that what I want to do is work with the Indigenous community. I want to work with the elders, I want to work with the women, and I want to find the right answers so that we can stop the escalating crime. Because most of the crime up here, they say is about 75% are Aboriginals that are committing the crimes. A lot of them, what I'm hearing is they'd like to work, but there are no jobs. And that's a big problem that we have up here. I think with the Adani mine, which I do support, it's going to create employment here and hopefully for a lot of the Aboriginal people as well to get jobs in the mining industry. So this needs to all happen, needs to go ahead, but I'll be working closely with them. And they're actually organising for meetings with me to talk to them about their issues. And they're sick of these other politicians, said they only talk to you with a forked tongue. You can't get anything out of them. And I think it's very important that we be upfront, straightforward with them, and that's what I want to do. I want to try and get some answers for the Indigenous communities. Well, I don't know if you've heard the latest news also about Anzac Day. Now get this one. Up to 5 towns at this stage in New South Wales are going to shut down holding Anzac Day. You know why? Because of terrorism. And the fact is they can't afford it because the cost of putting in security for the terrorism. So they're saying now we can't hold Anzac Day. So the first time in our history of holding Anzac Day, they're going to say now, well, we are not going to have Anzac Day because we can't afford it because of terrorism. Let's go to the core reason of why we have terrorism, because we have people in this country who do not accept our way of life, our laws. They are of the belief that they will control. They want to take over control. Why are we still allowing people of the Islamic fundamentalist belief into this country when this at the end of the day, they're changing our way of life? Anzac Day of all days. I am absolutely disgusted with this, what is happening, and I'm sure you will be too. Now, this is just outside on the outskirts near the Blue Mountains. This is happening, these towns there. We're talking, I think it's Blackheath and around that area that they've going to shut down and not hold Anzac Day. So if you haven't heard about it, go and read up about it and have a look. Well, I've got to say it's a lot has happened with Susan Ley and the politicians and their waste of monies. And even the media today have asked me about it. What am I doing up here? You know, who's paid for this? And I'm here on business. Everywhere I go in this country, you know, I make sure that I'm working extremely hard for the people, and I have always called for accountability, and I will always be upfront and honest, and I will not waste the taxpayers' dollars. I know that something has to be done about it. We can't have politicians out there abusing the system because we expect the public to actually tighten up their belts. Well, I understand what you're saying. Politicians have to show by leadership and tighten our belts as well. And I can honestly say I do. I watch the taxpayers' dollars, and I make sure that I am accountable to you. And I will, when I go back on the floor of Parliament, to make sure that the 36 recommendations I've been told from the inquiry that was held previously is implemented as far as the politicians' lurks and perks. Another thing that I've been pushing for years as former Prime Ministers to be actually taken off the payroll of the taxpayer, their gold cards, their officers, their staffing. No one should be paying for that. Why have we've got Bob Hawke, Paul Keating, John Howard, and we've got Julia Gillard and Kevin Rudd who are still on the payroll, and they're costing us, could be anywhere between $400,000 to $600,000 a year that it's costing us for officers, for staffing, for everything else, their travel. And here we are, you know, we're talking about Bob Hawke, who's been out of Parliament since the late 1980s, and he's still on the payroll, plus their wives. So, you know, that's something that they need to be cut, and they shouldn't be there. Even former politicians, and look, it has changed. The system has changed. You know, the politicians that are in there today, they're not going to retire on these huge payrolls that you see people like Bronwyn Bishop or some of the Philip Ruddock and the other ones that are retiring on. We're looking at $220,000 a year. And I can hear you from here, you're saying this is just disgusting, it's outrageous, and I agree with you, it is, and it shouldn't be the case. So these are things that I will be following up on, and I will have my say about it. I don't think it's right. I think we should not be treated any different than you, the people, and with your superannuation, no different to anyone else. And once we're voted out, we've lost our jobs like anyone else. Once they lose their jobs, that's it. We should not be further paid for it. And it's the same with everything else. Well, I just think, you know, if you haven't been to Townsville, I would say come on up here, have a look at it. Townsville is a beautiful place. This is the marina here, the harbour, and from here you can actually get the ferry over to Magnetic Island. Now I used to, about 1996, 97, I actually came up here, and I had a girlfriend who lived over there. And I came up here and I just spent a couple of weeks. Well, it's a beautiful island. You can go snorkeling, you can go swimming. The island's beautiful. So come up and have a look at Townsville. You've got Castle Island in the backs. Castle Hill, not island, sorry, in the background. So that's a trademark, an icon of Townsville, to come and see that. But tourism is a great area. Come up here and have a look at it. But I'll go away, leave me alone. Just because I've got my shoes off, had my heels on, my feet were killing me. Had enough. But look, I hope you've enjoyed the live streaming. I want to keep you up to date what is actually happening. Don't believe everything you read in the media and about the candidates, all that rot and all the disgruntled people that are happening. I've had a gutful of it. And these lefties media out there, and they'll print whatever they want to. God, they're going overboard. They are going to do everything they possibly can to destroy me or the party. And you know what? It's not going to work. It's not going to happen because I'm not going to let it happen. I've worked at this for 18 years to get here, to work for you, to represent you, and it's going to happen. And I will keep going at it. And just to tell you that, I had a meeting with the cane growers today as well. Now, they are at their wits' end, ready to walk off their properties. A lot of them are, because they can't get the ongoing agreement with Wilma, who is owned by a Singaporean. Well, he's not Singaporean, he lives in Singapore, but he's actually Malaysian, but his country won't have him in there. Now, the government allowed him to actually buy up Wilma, control, this is the sugar mills. Now, he is holding the cane growers to ransom. Can you believe it? If this government continues selling our industries and manufacturing to overseas interests who are now holding our country, our industries and our growers and farmers, everyone to ransom, we're bloody fools. So I'll tell you now, Malcolm Turnbull, I'll tell you now, Bill Shorten and Julie Bishop and all you ones who wanted to sell our country out and our agricultural land, you have no idea and you should not be running this country. So get out of the job of it. But if you won't get out of the job of it, I hope you people will vote them out of it, because we're not going to have our country left the way we are going. So I'm going to keep you informed. I hope you enjoyed it, what I've had to tell you. So I'll say cheers for now and thanks for joining me.